Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jim Jordan. I'm the Director of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness for the City of Calabasas. I would like to welcome you to our Crime Prevention Expo tonight. We're going to have a few speakers over here. Then once the speakers are done, in the multi-purpose room, we've got some vendors and exhibits to talk about alarms, safety. The sheriff will be there. The highway patrol will be there. A psychologist from the sheriff's department will be there if you have any questions about the psychological impacts of crime. I know a lot of people have been robbed, burglarized, whatever, and you can talk to her. She'd be more than happy to talk to you about how to deal with that if you have any issues. At this point, I would like to introduce two council members, Alicia Weintraub and David Shapiro. If you want to say anything or...
We just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Public safety is our number one concern, and we've been working very closely with our Public Safety Commission and our Sheriff's Department to ensure that our community remains the safest it can. Just so everyone knows, approximately 25% of our city general fund budget goes to sheriff services. So it really is our highest priority, and we are committed to making sure that the trends that we've seen, go back to the way they were years ago, and everything that we can do. The city council is supportive of anything that the sheriff's department needs and anything that we can do to make the community the safest that it can be.
Thank you for being here again. You don't need to hear long speeches. The only thing I can say is I'm as anxious as you are to see what the vendors have, what we can learn today. And again, whether it's Neighborhood Watch, whether it's just keeping your eyes out when you're driving, I think we can all make a difference in the safety in our community as well. Even a little a picture of a license plate of a vehicle that maybe is in the wrong spot at the wrong time helps the sheriffs a lot. So thanks for being here, and we appreciate everything you are going to spread to those who are missing this great meeting. I know we've had a lot in the city so far, and we'll continue to. So thank you.
Yeah. And just one last thing that I tell every group we speak at, make sure you have the Sheriff's Department non-emergency number in your speed dial in your cell phone. So 818-878-1808. And just as they'll tell you tonight, when you see something, say something. So just keep that number on hand for the non-emergency issues. 818-878-1808.
Okay, at this time I'd like to introduce Deputy John Peck. He is from the Malibu Lost Hills Station, and he is liaison to the City of Calabasas.
Hi, guys. All right, that was a test. Who can repeat that number? Anybody? I'm just kidding. All right. First of all, thank you guys for coming out. Thanks for inviting us. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. I'm going to talk just real brief, just for a few minutes, and then we're going to be next door, and please come in and ask all the questions you want. That's why we're here, okay? Please do that. I think obviously this is a crime prevention expo. I think the two biggest concerns, I know that for us there's a lot of things that go on, but the things that have really been in the picture, the biggest things have been the residential burglaries. I know that's on everybody's mind. And then there's been a lot of car burglaries. Those two issues have really been some of the biggest things. Around the holidays, things were really kind of heated up. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of residential burglaries. You guys probably all know that. The same thing with the car burgs. But really, since the beginning of the year, don't get me wrong, there's still crime going on, but it's really sort of subsided. It's a lot better than it was. Our department has made, forgive me for being vague, but we do this on purpose. We've made several arrests. There have been a bunch of teams that have been arrested, and I can tell you, I know for sure there are 4 people in custody right now that related to identity theft and mail theft, and those all 4 are still in custody, so that's a huge thing. So it all sounds, I know it on the surface, it's been kind of bad. It's a lot better now, and we are making progress. We have a lot of teams out there. We have a burglary team that does nothing but investigate the burglaries in our area. There is a community impact team, which I am on, and we do whatever we can to assist them. There was a major crimes division, and that's what they do also. They are really experts at this. And you got to remember that these groups that are doing these burglaries, they are not just isolated to Calabasas. These guys are organized. They know what they're doing. They get in, they get out. They know exactly what they're doing, and they are all over. They're all over the place, meaning the county is very big, the LA County, as you know, and it's not just our cities, but we are really making some progress on that. Again, I will be available, so if there's something you have a question, please write it down and make sure you come back and see me, because I'm kind of going to just go through a few quick things. One of the huge things you guys can do is what we call a neighborhood watch program. You've probably heard of it. And we can give you help with that. But what you guys are, and maybe you don't know it, you guys are some of our best eyes out there. You know, when we're driving around in the black and white, the bad guys, well, guess what they're going to do? They're going to hide. But when you guys are out there, you guys see things, and one of the city council members mentioned it. If you guys see something, you got to call us, okay? Don't post it on social media. Don't call your neighbor. You can do that, and that's all good, but you guys, call us first, okay? Call us and let us go figure out what it is, all right? Let's talk about Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but what it is, we don't facilitate it. This is what you guys do. This is what you do with your neighbors, and I kind of joke about this, but I'm serious. What you guys get together in your neighborhood, you get to know each other, and you have meetings. And I joke, but I say, you know, once a month, have a cheese and wine party hosted at somebody else's house. Get together, talk about your neighborhood. Some of the things you guys need to do with that, okay, who is having construction done at their house? What cars are supposed to be there? Those are really important things. Who's going on vacation? That's another one. Who's having packages delivered? These are just some of the things that Neighborhood Watch is really good for. Get to know your neighbors. You know, who's the boyfriend and the girlfriend of the kids? Who drives what cars? These are just some of the small issues, and you know, we can talk in more detail in the back. But it's really important. But the thing that we see, and I've seen this a lot, is when things aren't good and when things are, there's a lot of crime in the neighborhoods. Everybody's all in, and they jump in and they get in it and they want to be a part of it. But then when things start to get better, kind of what's going on now, things aren't so crazy and so bad. What happens is people sort of let it go. What I'm trying to tell you is you got to stay vigilant. You got to stay with it. Don't let it go, because it's easy. I understand. I've got 2 young kids, a job, all the other things that come with that, and it's easy to not find a reason not to go to that meeting. So if you can, do your best to kind of stay with all that stuff. All right, another issue, car burglaries. I'm sorry to repeat the same old thing, but people are still doing it. And I read the reports all the time. You got to try really, really be vigilant. Don't leave stuff in your car. It still happens. The cars get left unlocked. That happens a lot still. Another one I want to bring up is garage door remotes. Don't leave those in your cars. That's a perfect way for somebody to get in your car. If you leave your car unlocked and there's a garage door open, let's say they take that, they come back in a few days, they're in your garage, close the garage, they're in your house. So those are the kinds of things. Again, I'm sorry to keep repeating that, but it still happens. We not too long ago, and I, you know, you guys, if you heard or not, it was a few months ago, but there was a group that went from Westlake, didn't get into Calabasas, Westlake all the way down to Agora, towards the east end of Agora, and they went through all the restaurant parking lots. And they broke into 5 or 6 cars, and almost every case, because I looked at it, there was an iPad, there was a computer, there was a purse. So you guys, I'm sorry to repeat it, and I know you guys all know in this room, but share that with your neighbors, share it with your friends, your kids, everybody. And I'm sorry that it keeps happening, but it continues to happen. Something else that was brought up that we wanted to talk about was property recovery. I know a lot of people were kind of wondering what happens with all this stuff, and on a rare, I hate to say it, but property recovery is a pretty tough issue, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But On a rare occasion, if we do find somebody or a group, and a lot of times what they do is they will have like a storage facility, they will have their stuff in there. And what we do, if we get lucky enough to find that and find all that property, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually try to have an open house at the station and let people who've been victims come out and look at that stuff. But that's a rare occasion. Really what happens with this stuff nowadays, and if you haven't heard me talk before, these guys are in and out. They want jewelry, they want cash, and they want firearms. And what happens with this stuff is there are, I'm going to call them dishonest pawn shops, pawn people, and who handle this stuff. They probably get pennies on the dollar. The gold is melted down right away. If there's any jewelry, it's fenced off, and the guns end up on the street. That's why on a rare occasion you'll hear about a gun that was recovered in some kind of a crime, and it usually it was a reported stolen gun. So that's what happens with that stuff. It's really tough. I mean, we do have a website that we actually all the property that's stolen, it's all put into a database. Serialized property is obviously has a much greater chance of it being returned. But the other stuff, it's really, really hard. We try to match up stuff. We also get pawn slips from all of the local pawn shops. But even that, it's really hard to match that stuff up. On a rare occasion, when there's something super rare and we find it, we do everything we can to try to get it back to you. And I'm sorry, it's just the nature of things nowadays where they're in and out of the house, the stuff is gone in a couple of days, they got their money in their pocket, and that's the end of it. Solicitation, I wanted to bring that up. That was a topic. If you guys don't know, hopefully you do. There is no solicitation in the city of Calabasas provided that you post a sign. So it's really important. You got to have that sign up there. So if you have a sign posted and somebody knocks on your door, call us. Have us come out and investigate it. If they're still walking around the neighborhood, let us come out and let us investigate that. You guys don't do it. Don't confront anybody. That's what we're paid for. That's why the city pays us. That's our job. That's what we want to do.
So hello, I'm Officer Leland Tang. I'm the Public Information Officer, Public Affairs Officer for the CHP. So many of you are wondering why the CHP is even involved in type of security or anything of that nature. We took over the state police in 1997. So we're responsible for all state facilities and all state elected officials as well as all state judges. So any state appellate court judges or any state officers or constitutional officers, we're responsible for the physical security of them as well as their residents. So I got tasked with the other many duties that I do with doing site surveys. So I get called to do site surveys on elected houses. So like one that's close by to here would be Senator Fran Pavley. So I was with Senator Pavley when she was in the Assembly all the way up through the Senate. So whenever you saw her speaking, I was usually the guy standing in the corner making sure no one was jumping out of the corners or something like that. So I also did her site survey at her house in Agora. We have a couple judges that live here in Calabasas as well, so I've done their site surveys. So what I do is I get called to their house and I actually do the actual walk-around, exterior and interior walk-around of their residence. And then I also do a survey of their neighborhood as well. So that's something that many of you didn't even know the Highway Patrol did. We also provide security for all visiting dignitaries and things of that nature. But one of the things that the reason why I got this is that my family's been in the alarm business since the early 60s. So I grew up, with my father dragging me to all these houses, putting alarm systems in. So I grew up around security. So that's how I got tapped on the shoulder to do the site surveys. So one of the things that I did, and I'll just share what I did with a judge that lived here in Calabasas, is that when I show up, I take my law enforcement hat off and I kind of look at it from, how am I going to get into that house? And how am I going to get into that house without anyone knowing? Okay? So I try to blend in, right? So blending in is very important. So I will try to be in a car that is something that you would see in that neighborhood. Okay, so that's what we're seeing a lot of these people that are doing the knock-knock burglaries and all that stuff. They're actually showing up in cars that would fit in the neighborhood, that don't stand out. I may even dress appropriately so that I don't stand out. I'll pick a time of day. So in this particular case, I knew the judge. This was in the Second District Court of Appeals, Division, I think it was Division 4. I knew he was in court. Okay, so I picked a day when I knew he was on the bench. So he wasn't home. I knew he wasn't home. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that you've got to look at it from the standpoint of look at your property, look at your house, look at your business from a standpoint of if I wanted to rob this place or break into this place, how would I do it? And I did it to my own personal house as well. And I did my house so well that the only way I locked my keys in the house one time. The only way I was able to break into my house is I literally had to break a window and break and the funny thing is I didn't set the alarm because I was going in to go to my car and the door's shut. And I didn't have my keys, okay? So I literally had to break a window to get back into my house. I had to crawl into my house, okay? So is that a good thing? If you know that the only way to get into your house is you've got to literally break into the house? Okay, so that shows that what? You fortified your house. You did a really good job of fortifying your house. So that's one thing that is a good thing. The other thing to think about, too, is alarms. I heard an expert, and I'd hate to throw him under the bus, but there was an expert on Channel 11 News, and I was watching it the other night, and I was rolling my eyes because one of the things that he recommended is, how many of you know that alarm companies give you those little lawn stake signs? Okay, I have one. Most of you that have alarms have it. And he said, well, don't get rid of those. Take those out of the ground and don't advertise that you have alarms. And I'm thinking, that's nuts. Because if they know that you have an alarm system, are they going to think twice about breaking into your house? Absolutely. And then somebody says, well, they're just going to, it just lets them know that you have an alarm system so they can have a workaround. Well, if they know that there's a workaround, whether you have advertised the alarm system or not, what does it matter at that point, correct? Okay. So one of the things that I do when I do my site surveys, I assess, do they have an alarm system? Do they use it? Is it easy to use? Okay, if your alarm system is not easy to use and it is cumbersome or it's difficult to turn on or turn off, that's something you need to look at. I also look at entrances. And I also, after I do my site assessment, then I actually work with the homeowner and I say, okay, now let me see your routine. Okay, so I check your routine because many of us get stuck in this lull and we have this routine that we do day in and day out. We go to the market, we pull into the driveway the same way. Okay, we even sometimes take the same route home all the time from certain locations. Okay, so I do that. And so our site surveys usually take a week, just so you know. So when we do a site survey for any of our judges or any of our electeds, this is something that we do, whether it be an office or a home. We do an all-encompassing total survey, and this is something that all of you can do. So another thing that I look at is routine. I look at entrances. How is your entrance? Is it lit? Do you have shrubs or do you have hiding spots on either end? Okay. I also look at the illumination for the entire house. Do you have motion sensor lights? Do you have other things that are going to scare away or illuminate your house? So many houses, a lot of you pay a lot of money for landscaping. And your houses look fantastic and beautiful, but from a standpoint of a security standpoint, there's a lot of things where people can hide and take their time breaking into your house. Okay? So these are things that we really want you to look at. Camera systems. You're going to hear from some security experts here and some people that install cameras. They're fantastic. But make sure, one of the things that law enforcement has a problem with is that the camera resolution is so poor that we can't get positive IDs. So if you're going to have a camera system, make sure that it's got a good resolution where we can actually see the person so that we can go after them later on for prosecution. Also, have a camera system where if you have a smartphone, you can actually monitor it remotely. Those are great too, and we recommend that as well. Another thing that we have all of our electeds and all of our judges that we work with, we also recommend that the alarm company, if you're having your alarm monitored, we actually ask them to have the cameras monitored by the same company. So if the alarm goes off, the central monitoring station can actually pull your cameras up and they actually can see and narrate to responding units, hey, this is what's going on. So we recommend that as well. And a lot of our protectees have that as well. So these are things that you can do right now. A lot of the new products out there with a lot of the alarm companies out there they already have this built in. Even the cable companies and a lot of the communication companies have an all-encompassing package where you have the alarm, camera, all built in so that they can monitor and they can see all of that. So keep that in mind as well. And then lastly, we had a couple judges in this area that they didn't like keys. I don't like keys either. Okay, and clearly I forget my keys, right? Because I had to break into my own house just to get into my house. So there's a trend now for having people have push-button coded front doors. Okay, the problem with that is it's very easy to defeat. So go back to the basics. A key is good. And then also what we also do is reinforce your doors. There's been a couple break-ins where they just kick the door down. It's very easy for you to reinforce your doors. When we say about reinforcing the doors, we're talking about what we do and what we recommend is there's metal strips that you can put on the door jamb, the lock set that goes from the top to the bottom. And it's a metal strip that you would screw in with 4 to 6 inch screws. Why 4 to 6 inch screws? Is because you want that screw to penetrate the actual door frame, the meat, not the trim. So these are things that we would reinforce the front door. Also on the hinge side, back out those, replace all the screws on the hinge side with 4 to 6 inch screws so that the screws are actually going into the frame of the door. So it's harder to kick in. We also recommend, and we make this recommendation, clearly you're not going to replace your front doors, but most of our protectees, on our recommendation list, we recommend steel doors for the front. And there's a lot of now really beautiful steel doors that you can get. So we make that recommendation. I can tell you none of the judges in our area or in your community put steel doors in, so rest assured, they still have their beautiful, nice, solid wood doors. But understand you can reinforce the actual door jambs as well as the lock set by putting in longer screws. And this is something you can do at home. These are do-it-yourself things that you can do at home. Okay? Also the back door. Because the back door is not seen from the street, you can do the same reinforcement. We don't recommend back doors with windows in it, what we call half lights, full lights. They're talking about how much glass. We recommend that you take the glass out of the back door if you can. And then sliders, obviously reinforcing your sliders with some type of pole or something of that nature. Believe it or not, sliding glass doors are difficult to break. If any of you have ever tried it, it takes a lot of force to break that glass, especially if they're double pane. Okay, if they're old single pane, yeah, they're going to be easy to break. But double pane takes a lot of force. It's actually easier to kick in your back door, a wood door, than it is to break your glass double pane slider. Okay, and then plus a glass double pane slider makes a lot more noise, believe it or not, than if I were to come and kick in your back door. Okay, and kicking in your back door is very easy if you don't have it reinforced. So these are all simple tips. The last thing that I know we all recommend is that all of our protectees have a safe room. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, a safe room? A place where you could retreat if someone breaks into your house. If you have a safe room, please make sure that that door is reinforced. So preferably a steel door. And then make sure that you reinforce the door with the screws and everything else like that. And make sure that you have some type of way to communicate when you're in that room. And your safe room should not have any windows. So it should be a windowless room. So most of our protectees have their safe room in the master closet or some type of closet that they can reinforce. Okay? And that's something that you can do as well. So, okay? I'll be next door a little bit later if you have any questions. But I knew that this was something, when you saw the highway patrol, you're thinking, what does traffic have to do with personal safety? So I just wanted to kind of share some of these things that we do for our electeds that you all can do yourselves. Yes?
Can you share any comments on dogs?
Dogs? Well, I will tell you what I have. So I'll just, the big dogs typically don't make a lot of noise, right? What dogs make a lot of noise? Little ones. So at my house, I have a little Chihuahua that barks at everything, okay, which is great, and I have a little Pomeranian that also, and Pomeranians by its nature are what? They're very protective of their owners. So those are the 2 dogs I have. Okay, and they were both rescued, by the way. Okay, so I got them over at a shelter in Mission Hills. Yes.
If you have double doors, particularly in the front,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me the weak spot is going to be where the 2 doors meet.
Meat, correct.
The stationary door may have plugs going up and down to
Mm-hmm.
get into the wood, but how will you reinforce the part of the door that's used?
So there is a way to reinforce double doors, okay, in the middle. You can either put and have a carpenter put a piece of wood, okay, on the inset, okay, a heavy piece of wood. There is also some products that you can get at a locksmith, which is a steel bar. Looks horrible. All right, and I make these recommendations, by the way. What do you think my judges say? No way am I. One judge says, my wife's not going to let me put that in the house. There's no way. It looks horrible. Doesn't match the decor. Okay? And that's fine. My recommendations are just that. So in that particular case, I'll say, sir, either we immobilize one of these doors and make it from a double to a single, okay? Or B, if having these double doors is so important to you, then you need to put this metal bar that actually locks at the top, locks at the bottom, and it actually reinforces that middle part. If you look at a lot of commercial buildings, they actually have that.
That sort of defeats the purpose that some people have to allow greater access for moving things in and out.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So that's why I get a little bit of resistance, but you have to remember, when I'm coming in with my mindset of how am I going to break in. So at that point, I make my recommendation in my report to them. Whether they do it or not is clearly up to them, right? So I have to do my job, which is to do my security assessment, and then they take it up from there. And I can't force anybody. All right? I'm not like the Secret Service running in and telling, hey, you have to do this or else. No, we just make our recommendations and then they take it from there. Okay, any other questions? But these were simple things that you can all do easily that a lot of your judges and elected officials have already done. Yes?
What do you recommend for windows?
So for windows, there are several things that we do. So with windows, there are a couple of the judges in this area have used security screens. So security screens are actually regular bug screens that you normally would see, but they have little wires embedded into the screens. And then the screens are actually contacted to the window so that you have an additional layer. So it protects the window from someone throwing something in to break the glass to gain entry. If someone tries to remove the screen to get into the window, it sets the alarm off. So you have an additional layer of alarm protection. So it's almost having like a multi-layered approach to your alarm system. Okay, and we've got some great alarm people next door. I'm not endorsing them, by the way, but they can also tell you a lot about the different products. We also look at a multi-layered approach for alarms. So our high profile, like our Supreme Court Justice for the state, we gave her a multi-layered approach. So she has a perimeter security as well as then she has her interior security, and it's all electronic. So we multi-layered it for her. But she's a high threat, clearly, right? Same with the governor's mansion. When you go to the governor's mansion up in Sacramento, you will see a multi-layered approach. So you will see that there's seismic sensors in the ground. So when you touch the ground, we know that you're standing on the property. You break a beam, a microwave beam, when you approach the governor's mansion, we know that you're within 10 feet of any wall or window. Okay? And then if you try to take the screen off the window in the governor's mansion, you will set the alarm off. Okay? That's even before you even try to open the window. Okay? So that's a way that you can do this. And these are all things that all of you can purchase yourself. The screens are simple, and they're very economical. So that is not something super expensive and super high-tech. That's actually very low-tech. It's a very low-tech thing that's been around for many, many decades. So that's something all of you can do, security screens. Okay? And it doesn't ruin the look of your house. You're not putting bars on your windows, you know? So it's actually not bad looking. And then some people like it, and some of our judges like it, because they can leave their windows open and let air in, and the alarm is on. So some of you may like that as well.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. It's always great for us to see the community coming out to see these presentations and taking an active role in protecting yourself. And that's something we're going to talk more about tonight is really taking that personal role in protecting yourself, whether it's physical or cyber threats. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about have already been touched on by both speakers that you've heard, and that truly will reinforce some of the really critical things that you can do on your own to help secure your residence, your car, and just your own well-being and your personal information. So, as has been said in a few cases here, crime can be deterred, and it doesn't often take much to deter it. As I think Leland said, simple things like an alarm sign out front or maybe a camera system or basic things can be that extra step that a criminal's not interested in going into that house or going into that car. Even just a locked door can stop that threat pretty quickly, because regretfully there are far too many people out there that still leave those doors unlocked, leave those windows open when they're not at their homes, things like that. So it doesn't take much, and as I note on there, they don't want to get caught. The idea here is not to get caught. So taking those simple steps can be just enough often to stop them and for them to transfer to a target that's going to be far easier to be successful at. We all want to be successful in our jobs, so do they, regretfully. So just taking some of the simple steps you've heard about tonight, some of the things you'll hear about from our vendors, and also some of the things that I'll talk about can really be those little barriers that can prevent you from being a victim. So this is that path of least resistance. That's what criminals want. They don't want to work hard if they don't have to. They want to move quickly. They want to be in and out. In a burglary, they're not spending a lot of time in your home. They're going for those quick, small items to take, and they're moving on to the next thing. So it's all about not making it easy for them. And those are the things we'll talk about both physically and digitally tonight. There's a lot of crossover, especially in our world now where so much of our homes can be run through the internet, our cars can be run through the internet. So physical and digital have a lot of touch points. So you'll see that as we go through it, and you've already heard about a few things from our presenters tonight. And really, we want to be self-sufficient. It's like recovering from an earthquake or a major disaster. Law enforcement is a great partner in our community, but they can't be everywhere all the time. So we want to be as self-sufficient as we can be and take the right steps to prevent crime and hopefully have them move on to other homes or other communities where it's going to be far easier. Oh, my clicker got stuck already. So this is a quick video. It's a little hard to see with the lights, but it does show attempts to break into cars. And you'll see how quick this happens. This is in our community. And this is all it takes to prevent your car from being broken into often enough, is simply just locking your doors. You'll see a couple other people come into picture here that are going to the other houses in the neighborhood doing the exact same thing. So they've made the rounds, they've assessed their situation, it's not looking good, which is good news. These people did the right thing and locked their cars up, and they move on to the next street. So it can be that easy. Now, in this case, they're pretty well lit camera system, so that didn't necessarily stop that break-in, but simply locking the car did and stop them from being a victim. So again, as sheriff's department's already told you, it's just these little things sometimes that can prevent you from losing your things, whether it's your home or your car. So some of the basics, we've talked about these and we'll reinforce them a little bit. Lock up your car, lock up your garage, lock your windows. We'll touch on windows a little bit more. I know that question's already come up. I would also support what Leland said. You want to advertise that alarm system. Don't hide it. You want people to know that your home is a little harder to break into than others. If you've got your alarm, make sure to use it. Often enough, as I think Leland also said, people put in very fancy security systems that are so fancy you can't use them. You want to have a user-friendly system. So much can be controlled from your phone or an iPad or simply a very basic control panel. That's often all you need. So don't overdo it. Get what you know how to use and get what you're comfortable with. And a lot of the vendors next door can talk to you about that. Even with existing systems that you feel might be too complicated, they can likely guide you in a direction to find a system that works for you. Exterior lighting was already touched on also. We don't want to create an environment for people to hide in. So make sure it's well lit. Motion sensors are great because you're not using all that energy that will bring your bills up. Hiding your valuables, whether at home or in your car, is great because, again, we don't want to advertise what we have. You don't necessarily want to leave things on the front seat of your car. You don't want to leave that portable GPS system on your dashboard. It's just too easy. Often, car thieves are not going to break into a car where they don't see something. Again, they want to be successful at what they're doing. Every crime they're committing, they're taking a risk of being caught. So if there's no payoff to that risk, they're often not going to move on to somewhere where the target looks far more interesting. And has been said too, we want to be good neighbors. We live in a small community here. Just seeing we have a full room tonight is a great example of that. Report information to the sheriff, to Highway Patrol, to your other neighbors. Share it, see something, say something. However you want to remember it, leverage that neighborhood watch because often enough, those are the things, those little tips often will just be enough to stop the crimes from continuing to occur. So we'll talk about technology a little bit. That's what this is supposed to touch on. But again, it's the idea that technology and physical security really do go together. Cameras, both interactive and passive. So the meaning there is similar to what I believe Leland said and what some of the vendors you'll hear from. See, we've got Ring in the back of the room too. Some camera systems you can interact with on your phone, on your computer, and that's great. And that can be a great tool as you can seem like you're home and not be. Where others are simply going to monitor your property, and that's the more of the passive system. And to the point of recording, be sure you want cameras that are capable of recording in low light. You want cameras that are going to record at a high frame rate with good focus because it's great to have cameras, but it's not so great to have cameras with bad images, as the Sheriff's Department shared with you also. Sir? See if I can lean in a little bit more. Is that better? Better? All right, I'll lean. So, glass security has come up. The security screens are a great option, as Leland was discussing. One other option that we've seen come into play in some environments are products that are security films that can be placed on the windows themselves. These can either be invisible, completely clear to the observer, or they can be tinted or mirrored or whatever your preference might be aesthetically. But that security film won't necessarily completely prevent a break-in, but it will slow down a break-in. It will slow it down enough for your alarm system to activate and for people to respond to it. It tends to make a lot of noise when you're breaking a window, so the more you have to work to break that window, likely the more that criminal or potential thief is going to move on and try something else. So security film can be a useful product, and aesthetically it works really well with some homes too. Alarm enhancements go along with this too. Often people are just going to have contacts on their windows or maybe some motion sensors in their home. But think of other areas that might be vulnerable, like your garage per se. Often garage is an entry point that's a little easier, so you can have your alarm system connected to your garage door to know if somebody's breached that door, that's going to set your alarm off. You can have small sensors that are going to detect glass breaking, because often glass is going to be the first thing that's going to break far before a window or a door is opened. That's going to set your alarm off. So speak with the vendors tonight. Look at what you've already got in your home, and these enhancements and newer technology can help what you've already got, or if you're looking to add a new system in place. Mailboxes, mail crime, identity theft is a big deal. We see it happen often enough in our community and surrounding ones. There's a few good options. If you're expecting packages and you know you're not going to be around, see if you can get them shipped somewhere else, maybe an office address, maybe a neighbor who can receive it. If you can't do that and you are concerned about your mail, you've got a few other options. Locking mailboxes are becoming far more aesthetically pleasing for neighborhoods. They're also becoming less expensive, so those are something to look at too. online at Home Depot and other department stores all have those. There's of course postal stores, whether it's a P.O. box at a post office or a private store that can accept your mail. The nice benefit to the private stores versus the post office is they will take packages for you. Often you can't get those packages delivered to a P.O. box. They can do a mailbox store. So if you get a lot of mail, if you get a lot of packages, if you're spending a lot of time on Amazon, you may consider getting that mailbox because they can take your packages, they can hold them for you, and that's going to prevent your home being an attractive target with a big box sitting on your front step. Another thing that just came out, I've actually been looking at this and kind of testing it myself, is something called informed delivery. This won't prevent any crime, but it does give you some insight into what's in your mailbox every day. The U.S. Postal Service just put this out as a free service. You can sign up for it on their website, and you will get an email every day with scans, actual images of what's coming in your mail that day. It will help you then identify if you know a bill or a credit card or a check or something is expected, and that scan was there when it left the post office and it's not there when you pick up your mail, something might have happened. So it's seemingly a great service to just simply keep track of what may be coming in your mail that day. Access control, Leland touched on it a little bit. Some people are getting away from keys. It can be very user-friendly in some sense to have biometrics or keypad, or there's often now many devices that your phone will simply unlock the door for you. Technology can be great. Technology is a fantastic tool. Technology can also be defeated if it's used wrong. So whatever systems you look at to control your doors or control your property, really make sure you understand how to set them up. And if you're not comfortable doing it, find a professional to do it for you. What you don't want to do is put this great technology in to make your home, as the last bullet point, part of the Internet of Things, meaning your refrigerator and your air conditioning and you can turn your oven on and preheat on your drive home, all the things that you can do with your phone now. But if your network is vulnerable, that means somebody else can get in and do all these things in your house too. And that could mean unlocking your doors or opening a window or whatever it might be, and very much turning your alarm off and monitoring your camera system. So really consider the security behind what you're plugging these things into. Often they're working off wireless connections. If that wireless connection is not at least encrypted and password protected, you've got a big vulnerability that can open your house up even when you think it's secure. So really consider the technology we talk about here and what you'll hear about from our vendors is fantastic, but you do need that back end of security to make sure that technology doesn't open you up to more risk. Yes?
For the informed delivery, how do you sign up for that again?
It's on the USPS website. So I think it'll just ask for your residence address and some confirmation questions to make sure you are that right person, and then you'll start getting emails. So very, very easy system. I wanted to touch on vehicles a little bit. We do have a good amount of car break-ins, whether locked or unlocked. So just a few things to consider with your cars. We all spend more and more time sitting in traffic and making your car an office sometimes. With technology comes some risk, and these are the things we want to talk about. Most cars have some kind of tracking system, whether it's GPS or otherwise. So one of the notes I put on here is again, simple little things to not create more information in your car than what exists in the world. If your GPS is asking where your home is, don't necessarily put your actual address. Pick something close by. Pick a landmark that you can get close to and then figure out how to get home. Because often enough, if a valet parker is taking your car or somebody else may have short access, they're going to pull up that system and see what's in there, see where you live, see where you've driven. Most GPS systems are going to keep records and logs of every address you've gone to. So consider wiping that out sometimes and keeping that information a little bit more protected. Your car registration too. Consider registering at an office or a mailbox site, something like that, other than your home, because if they're breaking into your car, we don't necessarily want them to know where you live. So that car registration tends to tell them a name and an address and can then They can take that information and go from there, which is that remote control that the Sheriff's Department touched on also. Secure your remote control. If at all possible, lock it up in your car. Many systems now you can use your phone to control them versus having it in your car at all. So you don't want to have somebody be able to open up your home from your car because you left it vulnerable. Wiping out SmartSync is similar to what I was just talking about with addresses in your GPS. There's other things in there too. Often cars are advertising their access to social media and their access to your phone book, because we do have important laws that don't want you to drive with holding your phone. That information gets synced to your car. So that means you've got all of the contacts in your phone. That means names, and that means phone numbers, and other personal information that's now sitting and living in your car. So be aware of it. Personally, I don't have it synced to my car because I'm just not comfortable with my address book being on my dashboard. But if people have access to your car and they have access to it unsupervised or very often, you might consider what they have access to through that computer in your car. And valet is a big part of that. There are valet parking people that could take advantage of that, and others, again, that have access to your car. So consider only giving them just simply the key. Often you can remove the remote and other parts that can open your car from your key, not give them the remote, but just give them the key. So they can move the car, but they can't access a glove compartment, they can't access some of the onboard computing, things like that. So consider doing that as you give your keys away, because often that is truly the keys to your kingdom, whether it's your car, your identity, or your home. And a few things we'll touch on for online activity, because everything seems to end up online. Social media, again, great tool. It's fantastic to be able to catch up with all your friends, tell them what you're up to, but it also gives away so much information to people that you might not want to give it to. If your profiles are public, I strongly recommend making them private. You don't need the whole world seeing what you're up to all the time. Consider what you're putting up there. We'll talk a little bit more about some photographs in a minute, and what photographs can contain and what kind of information can be given away about your travel schedule, your work schedule, things like that. Be careful with it. Public records kind of lead to that. It's most of the people in this room, I would suspect, are in public record in some way, whether it's your home, whether it's your voting records, your phone, things like that. That information is easily accessible. And to the point that I think Leland made, security professionals need to think like a criminal to then find ways to secure your information and secure your property. Criminals are thinking that way already. They know this stuff's online. They know how to get to this information very quickly. It's all free. It's all there for the taking. It's all legal. You just need to find ways to limit what's out there and do a little research on yourself. I would strongly recommend going home and Googling yourself and seeing what's out there and seeing what comes up, because often you can get it taken down. The less information that's out there, the better. And so consider that with everything you put online, it's likely never going to come back. Wi-Fi I mentioned already. You really want to be careful with it, whether it's your home, whether you're at a public Wi-Fi environment. People can get into your information through your Wi-Fi. So really take a look at it. Make sure you can't just walk up and get online. You want to have it encrypted. You want to have it password protected. And be cautious when you're at other places like a coffee shop or places with free internet, that people could potentially monitor that internet. So be careful of what you're doing in those environments. Putting in passwords, doing banking, things like that. That's all detectable by people who are professionals at taking that information. So I want to show you a couple quick examples, and then we're going to send you off to our vendors. Photos can have a lot of information. You might not be aware of it, but it's an important thing and a super easy thing to fix. Location services and GPS that's present in your phone in many cases, is going to embed GPS coordinates in your photographs. You might know it, you might not. This is an example from last week. I was traveling a bit, so I thought of this presentation. I said, all right, let's take a picture and see what gets embedded. So as I sat in the airport in Paris, that is the information on the bottom left that came from the photograph. It's a free website service that you can do this with. It does not take much to do this. It's going to tell you when that photo was taken, what kind of device took that picture, and the exact global coordinates of where that picture was taken. It's a fantastic way for criminals to confirm that you're not there. If they see you're taking pictures on vacation, if they see you're out doing things away from your home, this is an easy way to confirm it. Some social media sites scrape this information out of their pictures before they're posted. Others don't. It just kind of depends on the site. But if you're emailing or texting these kind of images and your location services are turned on, this information is likely in those photographs. So be really cautious. It's a simple thing to do. Yeah, sir.
Based on what you're saying, criminals are smarter than I am.
They're professionals. They are professionals at this. Yeah. And it's great to have GPS on your phone. It's very useful. You use your maps, you use different ways to get around with it. You can simply turn it off in the camera module of the phone, and that's going to stop it from embedding the information. And that alone can control so much of what goes online and so many ways you can be tracked. I would encourage you to look at the location services on your devices and see what's turned on and what's turned off. And from a public records standpoint, I just wanted to show you this. This is a website called Block Shopper. Block Shopper is a real estate records website. This is something you can access. Anybody can. It's just public record. But what savvy tech criminals can do is simply drive down your street. They can pull up addresses. They can see who lives where. They can pull that information. This is simply Calabasas. It's an alphabetical list of every street in our community, and they can pull those property records and see who's there. Then they can do a little bit of research. Patterns of information. They can take that address. They can go to a street view. So that picture is just from Google. That I didn't need to go there. I didn't need to do anything. I simply pulled it up on the internet to see what the front of that house looked like. That's a pretty good house. It's got an alarm sign. It's got some lighting. It's got good brush clearance around the house, maybe not a preferred target. But I can go further. I can figure out who lives there, and then I can look at their social media and see what they're up to if it's not private. So that whole process can be done in about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's completely free. So it's not difficult to figure out what's going on in your world if people are really interested in doing it. And as was noted before, having very consistent schedules, posting when you're going to work, posting when you're going on vacation, talking about classes that you might go to at school, all of those things are going to make you slightly more vulnerable to know you're not at your home and know that maybe your car is not being monitored. So really consider that as you go out there, because often enough, this information, you can't make it go away. You bought that house, you've got to do a whole lot to change those records in our county assessor's office to make that go away. So it's out there. You've got to understand and accept it's out there. So now you've got to take some of those small steps we've talked about with putting those physical security measures in place to create a more secure environment. So a few things, and then we'll send you on your way, and we hope collectively we have not scared you. This is not meant to be scary. This is meant to be informative. And ultimately, we don't want you to be an easy target. Give me one sec. Technology is a great tool. Just be smart about it. Use it well, and really understand what you're putting in your home or in your car or carrying on you. Because often that technology, as you've seen, can make you more vulnerable if it's not used properly. Reporting suspicious behavior ultimately is one of the most important things we can do. The more information that law enforcement has, the more they can do to stop future crime. And of course, educating your neighbors. You guys, congratulations, made the effort of coming here tonight to hear us talk and to learn from some of our vendors. Many others didn't. We're recording this and we hope to post it and educate more, but we want you guys to go out there and talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends about some of the things that you learned tonight, and really help protect the community on a wider level. So I will be available next door for questions. I can take a few now, but I don't want to hold up everyone here either. And we got one more speaker, so I'll quick question and then I'll be on my way.
So relative to Facebook, I think we all know, don't say you're out of town or where you are. How about text messages? Are they at risk?
If it's a one-to-one text message, generally not. But if often people will use chat tools within social media to do that, and those could become more vulnerable depending on how they're configured.
Before you send this on our way, the people that we will talk to out there, how do you trust them?
Well, I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to hand it to you. No, I'd say this about any vendor, not just security, but you do your homework. Do your research. Understand that the internet's a powerful thing. You can see what others have talked about online about every vendor that you might work with. It's a small community. Many people have used similar people and use similar technology. So don't make quick, rash decisions. Spend a little time, do a little homework, and see what works.
I'm Ben. I'm from Ring. I'm from Ring. Has everyone heard of Ring? No? Cool. Well, pretty simply, we're a Wi-Fi enabled, we'll call it a doorbell, but now, I think we're really building a full suite of cameras that you guys can use. Everything everyone's talked about tonight, for the most part, our devices are designed to handle. So anything from package theft, mail theft, to, brazen home break-ins have been caught on Ring. And what we're trying to do now, I don't know, I may not have success, but it's okay. I'll go quick and I'll be over there, is basically create something that you guys can use at an affordable cost. So security systems cost, anywhere from $500, a couple $1,000s, no matter what you build. They may go to your phone, but won't alert you. It'll be something that the break-in or whatever's happening has already taken place. Ring is designed to allow you to monitor it. So it goes straight to your device, whether it be a smartphone, whether it be an iPad, any sort of tablet, a computer, doesn't matter. If you can connect your device to a Wi-Fi signal, you can connect a Ring up to your phone. I think somebody said that they monitor their house from Cancun or Cabo earlier this month. That's the idea. You can get everything going. I'm going to be without this, so no worries. Basically, what we have and what I've brought here is the idea to build a connected neighborhood. I'm sure most of you guys are on Nextdoor, Facebook groups for your neighborhoods, your HOAs stay very well connected. If you have Ring, you know the ease with it, to share video, to access your video. Law enforcement, you guys are turning your video over to law enforcement. It's helping identify, it's helping to, instead of just, hey, there's a 6'3", 6'4" guy on the street that I've never noticed before, you're now able to catch him on film, and maybe your neighbor's also seen him, so you're going to be able to partner up. With our devices, with everything that we're building, and I wish, if this can get going. Yeah, thank you, dude. There we go. Boom! I'll go quick. This is what Ring looks like. Ready? Just in case you've never seen a Ring video. We'll go full screen. Now, see, now I got the tropical background. Oh well, I give up. It's not important. It's late. So Ring, you can honestly monitor your property from anywhere, straight to your smartphone. So it's 2 video doorbells. They go directly onto where your doorbell would be right now. One retails at $199. You can get it at Home Depot, Best Buy, Costco, online. It literally replaces the doorbell you have. 2 screws get taken out. Put our doorbell on it. You'll have a full 1080p HD video camera, which I know, the officers were talking about the clarity. 1080p is what you watch football on Sundays with. That's as nice as it gets. That's as clear as it gets.
I want to thank all of you for coming to this room. I want to thank all of the presenters tonight. They did a fabulous job. I thought I was pretty smart, and I've learned that I'm not so smart tonight, and that there are some things that I can do personally to help deter what's happening around my home and in my car. Before I go any further, I'm going to take about 30 seconds, but I want to introduce the Public Safety Commission because they're all here tonight, with the exception of one. There's please stand, Jacqueline Suzette, Brian Cameron, Matt in the back of the room who did a presentation, Bert Rosario, and William Fritz, who's our student person. But they all worked very hard on this tonight, and thanks to Jim and Debbie for allowing us to do this in the city of Calabasas. just real quickly, takeaways from tonight. I'm just going to summarize very quickly. We started off with Alicia saying, see something, say something. That's on us. Neighborhood watch from Deputy Peck. We're the best eyes in our neighborhood, so I encourage you to go and find out about that and what you can do in your neighborhood. Leland, look at your house as if you were the robber. And what are the small things or the big things you can do to simply deter a burglary in your environment, both in your home and in your car? And then Matt, what can I say? He gave us a lot to think about. The block shopper, never knew it existed. Great information. The technology that we have to be smart about what we do and how we use it. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Ring.com, thank you for being here. And I'm sorry the presentation didn't work, but you have a lot of good information, and I encourage everybody now, go to the next room. Remember, it is on us now to make it work. Thank you very much for coming.
Hi, I'm Richard Castle, and I'm a photographer and I have a specialty of documenting property. Documenting your property is really critical to, in one way or another, cataloging everything that's in your home. While you might carry adequate insurance, there's no way you can remember everything that's actually in your home if you had a major loss and you want to get it recovered.
So many homeowners and businesses always ask, what is the importance of a surveillance or even a burglary system for that matter? Burglary systems are always your #1 priority. They are going to be the item that keeps the bad guy out. Surveillance camera systems are an amazing tool if they're used in conjunction with burglary alarm systems. However, surveillance camera systems should not be the only item that is originally deployed. Surveillance camera systems will document and record activities that have taken place, but they will not dispatch or call for help, unlike burglary alarm systems. So, if you have the option and tight budget, always go with the burglary alarm systems first.